Dallas. It is put up or shut up time for the Dallas Cowboys as they prepare for their biggest game of the season, Sunday, against the Philadelphia Eagles. Dak Prescott was limited in practice yesterday with a right shoulder injury that he suffered in last week's win over the Rams. How bad is it? Jason Garrett said that it's hard for Dak to function at this point. That's not great. Here's more from the head coach.
He's as tough as they come. His physical toughness and mental toughness are on par with anybody I've been around, and that's just what he's all about. He handles success, he handles adversity, he handles issues as well as anybody.
Yeah, Dak's going to play. I think he's just resting up, getting to make sure everything is as right as it can be by game time. Dealt with some AC joints, and they're tough. I couldn't imagine having to throw with it. So, but I know Dak, I know his toughness. I know he'll play.
All right, Nick, spin it forward to Sunday. How do you think this affects Zach in the Eagles game? Well, also Dak.
Well, it could affect him substantially. It really depends on, is this an AC joint, in which case probably won't affect him much? Is it a rotator cuff, in which case it will affect him incredibly? Dr. David Chow is a former NFL doctor. I think he's in Southern California, around the area you are, Doug, where he does a lot of this on, like, Twitter medicine, if you will. But he has real experience with football teams and with NFL injuries. He seems to think it's a rotator cuff, given the way Dak played after sustaining the injury.
Because it was early in the game, like first quarter or something.
And that type of injury, it gets worse days later, not hours later. You can play through it as opposed to an AC joint, which would have been the worst in the real time at that moment and then gotten better. If it's a rotator cuff, it's a big deal. And the only silver lining for the Cowboys is maybe this forces their hand into playing the type of game they should play against the Eagles, which is exactly right, which is hand the ball to Zeke as many times as you can early in the game. They're 4-1 when Zeke has 65 yards rushing in the first half of games thus far this season. Feed him early and see if Zeke, who averages, I think, 165 yards from scrimmage in his 5 career games, which are 5 career wins against Philadelphia, can continue this trend. But the other part of this that struck me was this is the end of his 4th year in the NFL. He's never missed a practice, and this is his first time being limited in practice, which speaks to his overall toughness and durability. So I do expect to see him out there, but if it is a rotator cuff, it will have some type of measurable impact on how effective he can be.
No question. He did play through it, and you're right. It does. It's one of those, it's like when you roll an ankle in the first half. It gets worse, then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh my God, right? And this is Wednesday, but he's tougher than a $2 steak. I mean, this is a guy, remember, he's got a hairline fracture in one of his fingers. Yep. He's got a sprained left wrist. Like, he's kind of held together with duct tape here. But I don't think that his downfield throws, that they're going to need him to throw 40. If he's throwing 45 times, Cowboys are in trouble. Right? They need to hand the ball off, conservative game plan. If he doesn't see it, he can also still run it. I mean, it's one of the things about Dak, which I think he is a bit of an underrated athlete. We do forget that he was a read option quarterback most of his career at Mississippi State before late in his career becoming more of a trying to make himself involved into a pocket thrower. So do I think it affects him? Yeah. I mean, it's going to be cold. It's Philadelphia. It's going to be a nasty environment. Nobody feels great. And when your shoulder ain't right or your finger ain't right and your throwing finger, it's going to affect you. And he's a guy that when he reloads going through his progressions, sometimes he loses some accuracy. But I'm with you on this one, Nick. I think this might actually be, it's not a good thing for your star quarterback in a contract year trying to make the playoffs to get hurt. But if it forces you to be more conservative, or not even necessarily conservative, but have a more run-focused, Zeke-focused game, what the hell did you pay the guy so much money for? You know, what was the holdout for? What was Jerry Jones telling us he's the best back in the league for? This is why you need to run the football in a game like this, in an environment like this, with an injury like this.
Plus, you're coming off last week where they did run the football, and they finally beat a team with a winning record. Say what you will about Dak Prescott, how well he's played, how he came out of the gate. This year was a big year for him. The team is still 7-7, which means this Sunday is an extremely important game for the team to make the playoffs if they win. Do you think what happens Sunday will determine whether or not Dak gets that big contract?
Dak's going to get a massive contract that the day he gets it, maybe the few days from when he gets it following, the biggest story on shows like this are going to be, did the Dallas Cowboys massively overpay for Dak Prescott? Like, that is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be a good deal or a good idea for them to give him the type of contract that he's going to get. But win or lose Sunday, he's getting that deal. The durability is a big part of it.
Yes.
The fact that you look at him and over half the league has had to play multiple quarterbacks this year. The Cowboys have gone to Dak Prescott from the moment Tony Romo broke his collarbone. He's not only been available for every game, but as I learned yesterday, he's been available for every practice. He also has the benchmark of guys in my draft class who I have been considerably better than this year. Not in the totality of the career, but this year. And Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Wentz got 4 for $128. That's $32 million a year with $108 million guaranteed. Goff got 4 for $134. So that's $33.5 million a year with $110 million guaranteed. Dak is going to get 4 for $140 at a minimum. He's going to get $35 million a year with $110 million guaranteed, whether they win on Sunday by 20 points or lose on Sunday by 20 points, because that's the contract that I think the Cowboys might have offered him already before this season, right in line with Wentz and Goff, and he was turning that one down, and statistically, he's having his best year.
Yes, but they're having their most dysfunctional and worst year as a team, right? Because the whole argument for Dak Prescott is, yeah, he may not be the greatest quarterback ever, but the team has won.
Right.
Here you are in a year in which the division is an abject disaster. If you don't win the division in this year, where the Giants and the Redskins are non-competitive and the Eagles have guys on the roster who are practice squatters, in a made-for-television Fox big game, you know, America's game of the week, and you can't win this game, that whole argument of, you know, I know he's not great, but he's a winner, and you don't win this year, I think it hurts it. And I don't think the Cowboys, I agree with you, he's going to get a deal. And it's going to be big, and we're going to argue about if it's too big. But if the Cowboys were a real organization that really sat there and thought, you know, we can just franchise tag him, and then we can franchise tag him again, then we can franchise tag him again. You don't have to. And I do think the size of the deal will depend upon whether or not he wins and then how he does.
Wins Sunday or wins the division?
Well, if he doesn't win,
he does win the division.
Right. It's a wrap. And then you're like, well, look how many times he's won the division.
3 out of 4 years.
He never hurt. You know, he has no off-the-field nonsense that anybody, you know, in Dallas has had. Quarterbacks generally don't have, but Dallas has had. And so you're like, you know, you'll get cost certainty in the deal. But the argument for Dak has always been, hey, the team wins. And I agree with you, the injury thing is a big thing because of who you come off. You come off Romo, who's a far better player, right? Romo made more things happen, lifted up a team with a terrible defense, but Romo seemingly was always hurt. Many of the actions were not his fault, right? Gronkowski's brother misses a block, that's how he broke his collarbone the first time. The broken back that essentially led to Dak becoming the quarterback. But it was always some nagging thing with Romo where this guy just finds a way to get on the field and compete every Sunday.
Let me say one more thing in defense of the Cowboys, because I don't think they should give him this deal. And I think they're going to give him this deal. Every team gives this quarterback this deal. You said if they were a real, no organization has shown the stomach to do what I thought the Rams might. I thought the Rams with Goff, I thought they were going to maybe hold off. No organization has done what I would encourage them to do, which is when you have a quarterback that in your heart of hearts, you know he's good, but he's not great, to say we are not paying him like he's great. The Rams were close to doing it, and then the last moment they're like, no, Goff will give you all the money, and they're going to regret that forever.
Right. So if you're the Cowboys and you see Goff,
but they would have to be the first team to. Right, sorry,
no, I think the Tampa will do it with Jameis. Right? Tampa is going, and I understand it's a different situation. Okay, he's had off the field nonsense. He throws out picks, right? Like Oprah gives